Hello, and welcome to Didn't Read It, the podcast that is bending the rules of time and space in order to feel less alone. I am your host, Grace Todd, and this is the second of our 2 holiday ghost stories. I am taking a bit of a break, giving myself some time off from research to rest and recharge before we start the new year. We'll be back with our regularly scheduled programming in January. We have some fun stuff coming up, but just like last week and last year before that, today I will be reading a ghost story, a Christmas ghost story, with very little preamble and very little discussion. This week's story is called A Christmas Meeting by Rosemary Timperley, and was first published in 1952 in Cynthia Asquith's The Second Ghost Book. We have covered other stories from the Second Ghost Book. I believe it was also Where Someone in the Lift was originally published, which, as you may recall, was a holiday-themed but regular episode with phenomenal comedian Hannah Land earlier this month. I like this story because while it is a little ghostly, a little spooky, it is a lovely reminder of our capacity to connect with each other and be meaningful to each other in ways that, short of supernatural intervention, we might never realize. So, without further ado, this is A Christmas Meeting. I have never spent Christmas alone before. It gives me an uncanny feeling, sitting alone in my furnished room, with my head full of ghosts, and the room full of voices of the past. It's a drowning feeling. All the Christmases of the past coming back in a mad jumble. The childish Christmas with a house full of relations, a tree in the window, sixpences in the pudding, and the delicious, crinkly stocking in the dark morning. The adolescent Christmas, with mother and father, the war and the bitter cold, and the letters from abroad. The first really grown-up Christmas, with a lover. The snow and the enchantment, red wine and kisses, and the walk in the dark before midnight, with the grounds so white, and the stars diamond bright in a black sky. So many Christmases through the years. And now, the first Christmas alone. But not quite loneliness. A feeling of companionship with all the other people who are spending Christmas alone. Millions of them, past and present. A feeling that, if I close my eyes, there will be no past or future, only an endless present, which is time, because it is all we ever have. However cynical you are, however irreligious, it makes you feel queer to be alone at Christmas time. So I'm absurdly relieved when the young man walks in. There's nothing romantic about it. I'm a woman of nearly 50, a spinster schoolmarm with grim, dark hair and myopic eyes that once were beautiful. And he's a kid of 20, rather unconventionally dressed, with a flowing, wine-colored tie and black velvet jacket, and brown curls, which could do with a taste of the barber's scissors. The effeminacy of his dress is belied by his features. Narrow, piercing blue eyes, and an arrogant, jutting nose and chin. Not that he looks strong. The skin is fine drawn over the prominent features, and he is very pale. He bursts in without knocking, then pauses and says, "I'm so sorry. I thought this was my room." He begins to go out, then hesitates and says, "Are you alone?" "Yes." "It's queer being alone at Christmas, isn't it? May I stay and talk? I'd be glad if you would. He comes right in and sits down by the fire. I hope you don't think I came in here on purpose. I really did think it was my room, he explains. I'm glad you made the mistake. But you're a very young person to be alone at Christmas time. I wouldn't go back to the country to my family. It would hold up my work. I'm a writer. I see. I can't help smiling a little. That explains his rather unusual dress. And he takes himself so seriously, this young man. Of course, you mustn't waste a precious moment of writing, I say, with a twinkle. No, not a moment. That's what my family won't see. They don't appreciate urgency. Families are never appreciative of the artistic nature. No, they aren't, he agrees seriously. What are you writing? Poetry and a diary combined. It's called My Poems and I, by Frances Randall. That's my name. My family say there's no point in my writing, that I'm too young, but I don't feel young. Sometimes I feel like an old man, with too much to do before he dies. Revolving faster and faster on the wheel of creativeness. Yes, exactly, you understand. You must read my work sometime. Please read my work. Read my work. A note of desperation in his voice, a look of fear in his eyes, makes me say, we're both getting much too solemn for Christmas Day. I'm going to make you some coffee, and I have a plum cake. I move about, clattering cups, spooning coffee into my percolator. But I must have offended him, for when I look round, I find he has left me. I am absurdly disappointed. I finish making the coffee, however, then turn to the bookshelf in the room. It is piled high with volumes, for which the landlady has apologized profusely. Hope you don't mind the books, miss, but my husband won't part with them, and there's nowhere else to put them. We charge a bit less for the room for that reason. I don't mind, I said. Books are good friends. But these aren't very friendly-looking books. I take one at random. Or does some strange fate guide my hand? Sipping my coffee, inhaling my cigarette smoke, I begin to read the battered little book, published, I see, in spring 1852. It's mainly poetry, immature stuff, but vivid. Then there's a kind of diary, more realistic, less affected. Out of curiosity, to see if there are any amusing comparisons, I turn to the entry for Christmas Day, 1851. I read, My first Christmas Day alone. I had rather an odd experience. When I went back to my lodgings after a walk, there was a middle-aged woman in my room. I thought at first I'd walked into the wrong room. But this was not so, and later, after a pleasant talk, she disappeared. I suppose she was a ghost. But I wasn't frightened. I liked her. But I do not feel well tonight. Not well at all. I have never felt ill at Christmas before. A publisher's note followed the last entry. Frances Randall died from a sudden heart attack on the night of Christmas Day, 1851. The woman mentioned in this final entry in his diary was the last person to see him alive. In spite of requests for her to come forward, she never did so. Her identity remains a mystery. The end. So there it is. It's a very short little story. And it's a little ghostly and a little sad and a little sweet. I think a lot of us worry especially around this time of year, whether we are understood, whether we are actually being seen by the people who are close to us. And this story reminds me that sometimes we are seen by the people we least expect in ways that we least expect, but that as long as we are trying, we are connecting somehow, somewhere, with someone. I hope you are all having a cozy holiday season, whether or not you celebrate any holiday at all. I hope you are looking forward to the new year. I don't know if I am, but I think it's okay, even in the face of very bad odds, to have some hope, to write some immature but vivid poetry. Thank you all so much for being here with me. Happy New Year, and we'll see you again soon. And as always, if you can, this week, this month, this pay period, consider supporting a living author, because they could really use the company and the love. Bye.